I was a lapdog to my girlfriend Sophia for 10 years, giving my all wholeheartedly, yet never receiving her true feelings in return. One day, I was having a meal with Sophia in a restaurant when the phone from the hospital suddenly rang. On the other end of the line, a cold voice notified me to visit my parents who had the accident for the last time. They had an accident on their way to the restaurant and were hanging on by a thread, waiting for me. Hanging up the phone, I tremblingly grabbed Sophia's hand, but she impatiently shook it off and complained, "Why haven't your parents arrived yet? Didn't you arrange everything? I'm telling you in advance, I'm not willing to marry into your family and be a slave. Show me some respect, okay? Sophia, my parents have been in a car accident and are barely alive. Come on, let's go to the hospital quickly," I said as I tried to pull her outside. It was a hot summer outside, and the air was so stuffy that it was almost suffocating. Suddenly, my hand was slapped away. Sophia stood where she was, answered the phone, and instantly put on a sickly sweet voice, "Okay, senior. Be careful. I'll come right over." Senior. It was that senior again. My mind was in a mess. I hurriedly grabbed the car keys to drive, but Sophia snatched them away. "James, David broke his leg and has no one to take care of him. Lend me the car for a while." I felt as if I had heard the most ridiculous joke. Tears welled up in my eyes and couldn't stop falling. "Sophia, my parents' lives are at stake right now, and you're telling me you want to drive to see your senior?" Her face turned pale. Then, as if she had thought of something, she stamped her foot, turned her head, and said, "Hospitals always exaggerate. But I've seen the photo of David's leg. Can you stop being so jealous all the time?" I didn't want to argue with her anymore. I snatched the car keys, got into the car, and said coldly, "If you don't come with me today, then from now on, we'll have nothing to do with each other. I've been your lapdog for 10 years. That should be enough." Seeing me like this, she sneered, then turned around and walked away gracefully. There was no time to think. I drove to the hospital at top speed. After getting out of the car, I quickly ran to the front desk to ask about my parents' names and successfully found the ward. Standing in front of the ward, my trembling hand was about to open the door, and I kept praying in my heart that God wouldn't let anything happen to them. At this moment, the door was suddenly opened, and a body covered with a white cloth was pushed out. In an instant, I felt as if the sky had fallen. The next moment, I heard someone calling my name from inside the room. I walked in and saw my parents lying on the hospital beds, with casts on their arms and legs, but they didn't seem to be in a life-threatening situation. The heart that had been hanging finally settled. I rushed forward, and my mother wiped the tears from my face, telling me not to worry. I tightly held their hands, constantly feeling grateful. Nothing was more important than the safety of my family. My mother still looked very weak, but she still hoarsely asked me where Sophia was, saying that she wanted to apologize to her for being late. I clenched my fists and forced a smile. "It's okay, Mom and Dad. She doesn't blame you." I originally wanted to directly say that there was no possibility between me and her anymore, but I was afraid that the two elders would feel guilty, so I decided to tell them later. After handling everything, I was about to go downstairs to buy food for my parents when a text message and pictures from Sophia suddenly came to my phone. The pictures were of David's bandaged leg and a beautiful selfie of herself. The text message read, "James, you were so mean to me today. But I really like the new bag from Chanel." I sneered. Everyone knew that James, the rich second generation of Thunder Group, had loved Sophia for 10 years. Since she transferred to our school in elementary school, I had been chasing after her, obeying her every word and giving her whatever she wanted. After we got together, I didn't dare to neglect her in the slightest. Whenever a new bag from any brand came out, without her saying anything, I would buy it for her as soon as possible. But now, thinking about it, it was extremely disgusting. Until now, she hadn't even asked about my parents' situation. Originally, if the meal had gone smoothly today, I was going to propose to her. I was walking forward with my head down when I bumped into someone. Looking up, I saw a female doctor. Even in her white coat, her proud figure couldn't be hidden. Her almond-shaped eyes were shining brightly as she looked at me. Then, with an apologetic smile on her lips, she secretly tugged at the little nurse beside her and said, "Sorry, James. I'm new here." I panicked subconsciously when I saw the ambulance coming in. I didn't mean to give false information. Her voice was familiar. After she finished speaking, I recognized that she was the girl who had informed me on the phone. Then, the female doctor introduced herself as Olivia and happened to be the chief doctor in charge of my parents. "You don't need to worry too much. Your parents just have some abrasions and fractures. There's nothing else serious." I nodded and was about to leave when I saw the little nurse beside her still trembling with fear. I stopped, pretended to be relaxed, and said, "Don't be so scared. But don't make this kind of mistake again next time. Seeing that the two of them visibly relaxed a lot, I didn't delay any longer. But the next moment, my arm was grabbed, and I felt a delicate touch. Olivia smiled gently at me and said, "James, aren't you going to add the WeChat of your chief doctor?" For some reason, I always felt that she was very familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had seen her before. I nodded and added her WeChat neatly. Just after adding, Sophia's call came in. I hung up, but the other side was persistent, so I directly blocked her. The school forum exploded. My good brother sent me a picture of David and Sophia. Sophia was half leaning on David, and both of them had flushed faces and looked abnormal. Most of the comments below were secretly mocking me. After all, it was really funny that the rich second generation of Thunder Group had been a lapdog for so many years and ended up with nothing. I opened my moments in Twitter, deleted all the photos and content about Sophia, and then quickly announced, "I'm single. Don't bother me." After posting, I turned off my phone and went to pick up the takeout and send it up. After a flurry of activity, my parents fell asleep, and I finally had time to catch my breath. Today should have been the most beautiful day. I would have taken Sophia to meet my parents, had a wonderful meal together, then gone shopping to communicate our feelings, and finally proposed to Sophia in front of my parents. But none of this was possible anymore. From now on, Sophia would completely disappear from my life. In the quiet ward, my phone rang inappropriately. The call was from an unknown number. Afraid of waking up my parents, I quickly answered the phone and walked out of the room. A familiar voice was shouting. It was Sophia. "James, what do you mean? Why did you say that on your Twitter in moments? Do you know that now everyone is laughing at me?" I didn't say a word, and the other side was still chattering non-stop. The general meaning was that as long as I apologized to her, bought her the latest bag, and announced our relationship on Moments and Twitter, she would let it go. I was about to smoke a cigarette but remembered that this was a hospital. When she finally finished speaking, I chuckled and said, "Sophia, until now, you haven't asked how my parents are." The other side was quiet for a moment, and then she raised her voice and asked me, "So how are uncle and aunt?" "You're so calm, so they must be fine." I said the hospital would exaggerate. I didn't want to explain anymore. Not far away, Olivia was walking towards me with a medical record. In an instant, a sense of revenge was ignited. I didn't hesitate and said to the phone, "I have a new girlfriend. Don't look for me anymore." After that, I turned on mute and quickly asked Olivia to pretend for me. Her expression was obviously a little stunned, but she quickly nodded. I turned off the mute and could hear Sophia's mocking tone on the other side, saying that it was impossible for James to like someone else. "Hello, I'm James's girlfriend. I hope you won't call again in the future." Olivia's voice was gentle and forceful. Somehow, my restless heart calmed down. After Olivia said these words, Sophia quickly hung up the phone. I looked at Olivia, a little dazed. It wasn't until she raised her hand and waved it in front of me that I suddenly woke up. "Hello, my boyfriend." Olivia's voice was sweet, and she smiled brightly. "Sorry, I was so emotional just now that I used you as a cover." She slowly approached me, and a faint fragrance wafted from her. Olivia's face was so close that I could almost clearly see her delicate fluff, and my breathing gradually slowed down. I was about to take a step back, but she suddenly stepped back again. "It doesn't matter. There will be plenty of time in the future." After that, she was hurriedly called away by the little nurse. For several days in a row, I didn't go to school and stayed by my parents' side to take care of them. The school forum even opened a bet on when I would grovel and beg Sophia. I saw that Sophia bet on 7 days, and others followed her bet. I smiled. Why on earth did these people think that I would still be Sophia's lapdog? Without any hesitation, I added an option of never. I would never have anything to do with Sophia again. The next moment, an unknown call came again. I directly hung up. These days, all the unknown calls were from Sophia trying various ways to reach me. Counting the days, today was exactly the 7th day. Olivia came as usual with the medical record to check on my parents. The two elders couldn't stop smiling when they saw her. I suppressed my emotions and watched her gently examine the two elders. On the 3rd day after my parents were hospitalized, I told them the news of our peaceful breakup. Although it was a bit sudden, they were businessmen after all. After a simple show of surprise, they accepted it. After the examination, Olivia was about to leave when the ward door was suddenly pushed open. Sophia rushed in with big and small bags, smiling at me. After putting down the things, she affectionately took my arm and introduced herself to my parents, uncle and aunt. "I'm Sophia. I'm so glad you're okay." The ward was silent. I quickly pulled my hand away and distanced myself. Sophia's face changed immediately, but she didn't move further. Olivia just quietly watched all this. Yes, this is my friend. I drew a clear line while taking the things from Sophia's hand and thanking her. My parents politely asked her to sit down, and Olivia stood aside and didn't leave. Aunt, James and I have long wanted to come and see you, but I had something to do that day, so I didn't come with him. James also said that we'll be a family in the future, and you wouldn't mind. Sophia said to herself, not realizing that the two elders' faces had already turned ugly. It was strange. In the past, I would cover up any lies Sophia told, but now I felt inexplicable disgust. Sophia moved closer to my mother as she spoke, almost pressing on the infusion tube. Fortunately, Olivia was quick-eyed and stopped her. Don't be too noisy in the ward. Olivia's voice was cold, showing all the solemnity of a doctor. I let out a sigh of relief and was about to pull Sophia out to make things clear when she suddenly stood up emotionally, pointed at Olivia, and said, "Are you the one who called that day?" Olivia didn't confirm or deny it, just nodded with a faint smile. The next second, Sophia rushed up like crazy and was about to hit her. I quickly blocked Olivia behind me, grabbed Sophia's raised hand, and threw it away. "Sophia, don't go crazy here. And we've already broken up," I said firmly, feeling more firmly than ever that the person in front of me was so despicable. "James, don't regret it." Sophia's eyes were red, and she was almost on the verge of tears. She left this harsh word and then turned around and left. The originally harmonious atmosphere in the ward was broken, and I walked out in silence. 2 more days passed, and my parents were finally discharged from the hospital. I found a professional nanny to take care of them. After feeling at ease, I returned to school. The school forum was as lively as ever. When passing by the basketball court, I saw David. I had to say that he was good-looking, clean-cut, and could play basketball and talk well. I was about to go back to the teaching building when a group of people suddenly started whispering. Coincidentally, the protagonist of their discussion was me. I looked up carefully and saw Sophia wearing revealing cheerleading clothes, frantically cheering for David. I suddenly remembered that when I asked Sophia to come to my piano competition before, she didn't care, let alone cheering loudly in this dress. TSK, it really wasn't worth it. I lowered my head, pretended to look at my phone, and quickened my pace. But a pair of straight legs appeared in front of me. I didn't need to look to know it was Sophia. Sophia said angrily, "James, how long are you going to keep this up?" "Keep what up?" I almost wanted to laugh and replied impatiently, "Get out of the way." I frowned, my patience almost at the breaking point. Slowly, many people gathered around, and many people raised their mobile phones to take photos. I just wanted to leave quickly. Sophia liked to be the center of attention, but I didn't. Sophia blushed and said to me, "If you're really that angry, I'll apologize to you. It was an emergency that day. You don't know how vulnerable David was when I got there." Ah, David was vulnerable. Then my parents' accident wasn't as important as an ordinary senior. I sneered, looking down at her. "Sophia, I don't want to say too much. You should be able to feel that I don't like you anymore. And don't compare anyone casually with my parents. Think about whether they're worthy." My voice was not low, and some people around began to sigh. Sophia's face turned pale, and her hand holding my wrist was trembling slightly. I frowned, glanced at the clothes on her body, and then moved my eyes away in disgust. "I didn't wear this on purpose. David said no one would cheer for him, and I was afraid he'd lose face, so I came to help. Don't misunderstand me, James." Her voice was full of anxiety, but her words were full of loopholes. She still thought I was the fool I used to be. David put down the basketball in his hand and walked over. In the past, he always found various reasons to ask Sophia to help. These favors were very deliberate, and anyone with eyes could see it. "Say what you have to say. Why are you bullying a girl?" David walked up, looking indignant as if he was standing up for her, which almost made me laugh. "They're a perfect match." My phone rang inappropriately. I opened it and saw it was the counselor. I was about to leave, but the crowd around was so thick that I couldn't move. In front of me, Sophia was still crying pitifully, looking like a victim. I was so anxious that I was about to push through the crowd and run away. A familiar voice came from the broadcast. "The international superstar Jackie Chan is coming to the school to film. He's at the East Gate now." In an instant, most of the onlookers left. Sophia was crying uncontrollably, and her whole body was leaning on David. I turned my head and didn't look anymore. The counselor asked me to arrange the badminton competition. As the president of the badminton club, I naturally had to do it myself. With my parents just discharged from the hospital, I was busy running between home and school. There were registration forms on the table. When Olivia appeared in front of me, I thought I was seeing things. "Sign me up." Her voice was still soft, and she was smiling. Seeing my doubts, Olivia began to explain that she had passed the school's exchange student application and came here to give me my parents' re-examination results. I nodded and then filled in Olivia's name. "I want to sign up too." Sophia suddenly appeared from nowhere, took the registration form, and started filling in her name. After filling it, she looked at Olivia menacingly. I knew Sophia's possessiveness had flared up. In the past, I rejected all opposite-sex relationships around me for Sophia. I was always cold to outsiders, but there were always people around her. I didn't care before, thinking that no matter what, I would be the most important person in Sophia's heart in the end. I accompanied her for 10 years, doing my best to give Sophia the best of everything, but the result was ridiculously bad. My parents' lives were not as important as David's leg. Thinking of this, the last bit of pity I had for her disappeared. "There's no chance anymore, Sophia. Never again." Sophia was holding a bottle of water. After signing up, she handed it to me in a flattering way. I just stared at it in silence without responding. Sophia's phone on the table lit up. I glanced at it casually. It was a message from David. "Sophia, have you arrived? The movie is about to start." I lowered my eyes, hiding all my emotions. Sophia panicked and picked up the phone. After making sure I didn't see it, she spoke again. "James, the counselor asked me to do something. I'll come to see you tomorrow." She had used this clumsy excuse countless times before. I looked up at her calmly and said, "Sophia, no one wants their love to be hidden." After Sophia left, Olivia sat beside me. "The recruitment officer is on leave today, so I'm just here to help out. There are so few people who like playing badminton." In a way, Olivia signing up is actually a big help. The atmosphere fell silent, and I didn't quite know what to say. "Aren't you going to thank me?" I turned my head, and Olivia continued, "That legendary Jackie Chan really saved you from a tough spot." In an instant, I remembered that familiar voice. It was Olivia. I smiled and nodded. "Well, I really should thank you." Just as I was about to be polite, Olivia quickly replied, "Can you accompany me for a walk by the river this weekend? I haven't been back for a long time, and I want to see if it's still the same as before." By the river, I felt a bit dazed. This was the place where I fell in love with Sophia. I was young and mischievous back then, and I loved playing with pebbles by the river. The first time I saw Sophia was right here by the river. She was wearing a tattered dress, and her face was dirty. She told me that her family was always arguing, and she didn't have enough to eat. So that day, I took the pocket money I had saved, bought Sophia a beautiful dress, and then we went to a high-end restaurant for a meal. Sophia ate ravenously, then squinted her eyes and said, "Thank you, big brother. You're so nice." Probably at that moment, I decided to take care of her for the rest of my life. When I grew up, I wanted to take Sophia to the river again, but she always sneered and said, "What's so interesting? There's nothing but the river." Olivia waved her hand in front of me, pulling me out of my memories. "So, is it a yes?" she asked me again. This time, I nodded. The badminton competition was scheduled for Friday. Quite a few people showed up that day. It seemed the publicity department had put in a lot of effort. The competition followed an elimination system, and some new players were easily knocked out. I originally thought Olivia was just interested for a moment, but I didn't expect her to be quite skilled. Olivia had a high ponytail, revealing her white collarbone. Every move she made exuded a goddess-like charm, and the junior students were already cheering for her. Soon, only Sophia and Olivia were left in the women's group. I didn't know how long Olivia had been learning to have such skills today, but I knew how long Sophia had been learning because I taught Sophia how to play badminton myself. One day, Sophia came to me and said she wanted to learn badminton. When I asked her why, she stammered and said she was just interested. I didn't think much of it, arranged a venue, and taught her wholeheartedly. 3 days later, when I saw her playing back and forth with David on the playground, I understood why she wanted to learn. I was angry at that time, but Sophia just frowned and said I was making a big deal out of nothing. "It's just playing badminton with him. Why are you always so unreasonable? Can you stop being so suspicious? It really annoys me. If something was going on between us, it would have happened long ago. Would it be like this now?" I swallowed back any further words. Sophia turned her head and looked at the cheering crowd. When she realized the cheers weren't for her, she furrowed her brows. I knew she was angry. After all, she had been eager to be the center of attention since she was a child. I couldn't help but worry about Olivia. After all, Sophia could be really difficult when she got mad. However, it turned out I was overthinking. Olivia's skills were clearly more professional than Sophia's. Maybe others couldn't tell, and they just thought the two were evenly matched. But since I was trained in various skills since childhood, I could tell that every move of Olivia's was exactly the same as the professional training I had received. Sure enough, it wasn't long before Sophia started to run out of steam. Suddenly, Sophia swayed and fell to the ground, hugging her leg and shouting in pain. The people around immediately became restless. Olivia quickly ran to her side to check on her, and I also joined the crowd to see how Olivia would handle it. Olivia briefly examined Sophia's injured leg. After dealing with it, she let out a sigh of relief and said, "It's just a simple sprained ankle. It's nothing serious." But Sophia suddenly pushed Olivia away, shouting angrily, "Don't touch me." David promptly picked Sophia up in his arms and shouted at Olivia, "You're not a professional. What are you pretending for? If something goes wrong, you'll be responsible." David's tone was full of disdain. Olivia was pushed to the ground by Sophia, and I couldn't hold back my anger anymore. After helping Olivia up, I looked coldly at David and Sophia and said, "Getting injured in a competition is normal. Olivia is a doctor. If you don't believe what she says, you can go to the hospital and check for yourselves. And Sophia, don't let me see you lay a hand on Olivia again." From the time I entered school until now, I had never spoken harshly to anyone, so those people dared to make fun of my gossip. But perhaps they forgot that I'm not an ordinary person, and it's not difficult for me to make certain people pay the price. Sure enough, David's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He was speechless for a long time, and then he could only carry Sophia to the infirmary. Sophia in his arms seemed to feel a bit better from the pain. She kept arguing to get down and even demanded that I carry her to the infirmary. I ignored her and just patted the dust off Olivia's back, asking with concern, "Are you okay? How do you feel?" After all, this problem occurred in the competition I arranged. She was kind enough to help check, but wasn't appreciated. I had to handle this properly. Olivia shook her head, indicating that she was fine. Then, she habitually tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and the faint birthmark behind her ear caught my attention. I felt like I had seen it somewhere, but I just couldn't remember. At this moment, I received a message from David on my phone, saying that Sophia was making a fuss and wouldn't apply the medicine unless I went over. I frowned, thought for a moment, and then simply replied, "Then let her hurt to death." Because of this incident in the competition, the mixed doubles that followed was postponed. Olivia came to me and said no one wanted to be her partner. To thank her, I naturally had to agree to team up with her. To practice our teamwork, we booked a venue and kept practicing. However, I didn't understand why every time I got close to Olivia, I felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. When we were almost done practicing, we sat side by side to rest. Olivia's hair was wet with sweat, sticking to her skin. The birthmark behind her ear came into my sight again. I stared at it and was lost in thought. It was not until the distance between us was a bit too close that I came back to my senses. Olivia seemed extremely excited. She even pushed her hair aside on purpose, asking me to look carefully. "Look closely, James. Look closely at this flower behind my ear." I looked at her in confusion. Her eyes were shining brightly, and she seemed overly excited. But in the end, I couldn't resist the urge of that familiar feeling and examined it carefully. Still, I couldn't remember anything. "So, what do you think? How about this flower?" Olivia asked eagerly. I frowned and shook my head. "I just feel it's a bit familiar, but I can't say anything else." The light in her eyes instantly dimmed. When we parted, Olivia still seemed a bit off, but I didn't think too much of it. When Sophia had almost recovered, the day of the competition arrived. This time, Sophia found David as her partner. There were a lot of people at the final. After all, our love triangle situation was really good gossip material for everyone. The competition started, and the advantage of the professional training that Olivia and I had received immediately showed. For us, defeating Sophia and David was almost effortless. Without a doubt, we won. As I was leading Olivia out, Sophia blocked our way. Her expression was a bit helpless. Finally, as if she had made up her mind, she said, "James, I'll listen to you from now on. I'm confessing my love to you again here today. Will you be with me?" The people around started cheering again. Most of them still thought I would obediently follow Sophia. I said coldly, "Have you finished? If so, I'm taking Olivia to dinner. Have some self-respect." Sophia's expression instantly changed from disappointment to anger. Finally, she directly grabbed David's hand and swaggered away. I shook my head, feeling more and more indifferent. After the competition, I could finally rest. So many things had happened recently. It seemed that in an instant, a lot had changed, and I had let go of a lot. My parents were busy with company affairs, and I was glad to have some free time. But Sophia kept sending me messages from various phone numbers on my phone. Recently, it had become even more intense. I didn't know what method Sophia used, but even David started pleading for her. In the end, I was so annoyed that I agreed to meet David and have a good talk. But I emphasized again and again that if I saw Sophia, I would turn around and leave. David invited me to a private room. It was very quiet here, and it seemed to be quite expensive. But I vaguely remembered that his family was just an ordinary one. After I sat down, I got straight to the point. So, what do you want to talk about? David poured a glass of wine, downed it in one gulp, then smiled helplessly and said, Sophia said she found she couldn't live without you and asked me to come and explain to you. I looked at him with a smile and asked, explain what? Explain that you have nothing to do with her and it's all a misunderstanding. David paused, let out a long sigh, and continued, everything was my own doing. It has nothing to do with Sophia. I frowned and looked at him. Although he seemed affectionate, I always felt something was off. There was an indescribable weirdness. I said again, I'll say this one last time. There's no way for me and Sophia anymore. And if you really like her, you shouldn't let her be so obsessed. Sophia's current appearance is really disgusting. Yes, disgusting. That's how I felt about Sophia now. After 10 years of relationship, I could only describe her with these two words. She wasn't worthy at all. Unfortunately, I only realized this now. In the end, David and I parted on bad terms. On the way home, Olivia asked me to meet her by the river. When I arrived, it was dusk. The gentle breeze was gently blowing Olivia's waist-length hair. She was gracefully standing by the river. I walked over slowly and found that she didn't seem to be in a good mood. James, in your memory, is there only Sophia? She asked. I looked at her in confusion. When she turned her head, I realized she was already in tears. James, do you remember saving a little girl by this river? I looked at her face and felt it was a bit familiar. Just as I was about to speak, she suddenly jumped into the river. I was shocked and then jumped in without hesitation. The icy cold river water instantly made me remember who Olivia was. The birthmark behind her ear was the mark we had agreed upon when we were kids. I used to call her Little Ear when we were young. Her family lived next door to mine. I often took Olivia out to play when we were kids. Once, when Olivia was throwing stones, she didn't notice her footing and fell into the water. I jumped in and saved her. The first thing Olivia did when she woke up was to slap me, and then she hugged me and cried. I was confused at that time and just patted her back to comfort her. Later, Olivia's family was going abroad. Before leaving, she asked me to look at her ear in a childish voice, saying that there was a beautiful flower behind her ear and that I should recognize her by this flower in the future. I nodded firmly when I was a kid, saying I wouldn't forget her. But when I grew up, I had long forgotten about Olivia. Although it was summer, when I carried Olivia ashore, she was still shivering from the cold. With a solemn face, I took her back home. Along the way, Olivia looked at me full of expectation, repeating, "Do you remember?" I was too angry to respond. It was not until I settled her down that I softly replied, "I remember, Little Ear." Olivia was overjoyed, but soon she started crying again. I gently patted her back. At this moment, David suddenly called, saying that Sophia had cut her wrist. Olivia and I were both shocked and rushed to the hospital immediately. Sophia looked pale. The doctor said that fortunately, she was sent in time, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. David was standing aside, deep in thought. When he noticed me looking at him, he immediately pretended to be worried. When Sophia woke up, I was sitting beside her. "James, I really know I was wrong. Can you stop being like this?" Her eyes were moist again. I looked at her, feeling nothing inside. In the past, because I loved Sophia, I thought my love could match everything, and I chose to tolerate everything about her. But now that I didn't love her anymore, I suddenly realized that the Sophia in front of me wasn't so glamorous. Almost everything she had came from me, but she took it for granted. Perhaps the girl I loved when I was a child was no longer the same as the grown-up Sophia. "Please, just forgive me this once, okay? I'll be good from now on. Let's be together happily, okay?" Sophia pleaded humbly. I just looked at her quietly. Finally, I shook my head and said, "I don't love you anymore. The more you act like this, the more disgusted I feel." This sentence seemed to hit Sophia hard. She slowly let go of the hand that was holding me and didn't try to hold me back anymore. I got up and walked out of the ward. I thought to myself that little ear's hair wasn't dry yet, and I hoped she wouldn't catch a cold. When Olivia was sitting there obediently, waiting for me to dry her hair, I came back to my senses and felt something was wrong with myself. I couldn't help thinking, this little ear, why does she seem to be getting more and more beautiful? Since we recognized each other, Olivia and I have become closer and closer. Before I knew it, we were inseparable, going to class, having meals, and going out together. Being with her, I felt a kind of happiness I had never felt before. At night, the stars in the sky were particularly bright. We made love passionately. Hugging each other, in the tender moment, I asked Olivia, "Do you regret it?" She answered firmly and gently, "No, I'll never regret it in my life." After that, we went to meet each other's parents. The two families were well matched, and there was no obstacle in communication. The engagement day was getting closer, and I felt that happiness was within reach. I took Olivia to try on wedding dresses and personally selected a restaurant. Everything was going smoothly originally. However, one night, with thunder and rain outside, Sophia frantically slapped on the door of my apartment, begging me to open it. I was so annoyed that I finally opened the door. But I was shocked by the sight of Sophia in front of me. Her hair was messy, her eyes were sunken with dark circles, and she was extremely thin, looking like a ghost. "James, we should be together. We've been together for 10 years, 10 years. How many more 10-year periods do I have to give to others?" Sophia cried hysterically. Out of humanity, I poured her a glass of water, then sat on the sofa and said calmly, "Sophia, I loved you for 10 years too, but in these 10 years, you never cherished me. You said you were going shopping with your girlfriends, but actually David invited you to a concert. You took the money I gave you and took him to eat, drink, and have fun. You said there was something wrong at home and needed money, and I transferred it to you without hesitation. But in the end, I found out you gave it all to David. On my birthday, I turned down everyone, just wanting to spend a romantic evening with you, but you left me waiting in the restaurant all night. Where were you that night? Who were you with? Do I need to go on?" I said word by word. In fact, there were many other things. Many times, I wasn't Sophia's first choice. I was just too stupid to believe it before. Sophia stopped talking and just sat on the ground crying non-stop, which made me very annoyed. I thought, what should I do? Sophia has dirted the floor. Olivia will be angry when she comes back. So I said, "Do you have anything else? If not, you can leave. I still need to cook for Olivia." Sophia was shocked. Before leaving, she still asked me for money. I laughed bitterly for a long time. I never thought that in Sophia's eyes, these 10 years could be exchanged for money. But then I thought, it was worth spending money to buy some peace. So, without hesitation, I transferred the money to her. I will never forget the way Olivia walked towards me slowly in her wedding dress. She was breathtakingly beautiful. I personally put the ring on her. Just as the ceremony was about to be completed, Sophia suddenly rushed in. She looked even more terrifying than before, neither human-like nor ghost-like, making people frown. "James, give me money, give me money. Otherwise, I'll have no drugs, and I'll be beaten to death. Give me money quickly." She was completely crazy. Olivia was a bit scared. I gently hugged her and comforted her softly. The hatred in Sophia's eyes grew stronger, as if she would rush over and kill us in the next second. After this farce, the originally smooth engagement banquet was in chaos, and everyone was in a very bad mood. I'm not the kind of person who can just let things go. Sophia has to pay for what she's done. At this moment, David's face suddenly popped into my mind. Sure enough, when all the investigated materials were laid out in front of me, everything became crystal clear. Sophia had become addicted to drugs, and it was all part of David's scheme. Some time ago, David had been asking Sophia for money, claiming to be involved in some strange theology, with the insane aim of controlling my mind. I really couldn't understand how a woman could have such a crazy idea, yet Sophia actually believed it at first. Until David took the opportunity to get her to touch things she shouldn't have. After that, all the money in Sophia's card went into David's account. Besides, David tricked her into investing, promising huge profits. Sophia believed him again, and ended up in a disastrous situation, losing both her reputation and wealth. I looked at the photos in the materials and couldn't bear to keep looking. The Sophia in the photos was nothing like the school beauty she used to be. She was covered in wounds, lying on the ground, barking like a dog just to please her employer. Sophia had thus become David's money-making tool, falling from a wealthy young beauty to such a tragic state. David was very sly. He deliberately approached Sophia from the start because he knew I would give Sophia money, and all he had to do was take it for himself. Apparently, he succeeded. The door opened, and Olivia walked in with a solemn expression. Sophia is covered in wounds. There's hardly a single spot on her body that's okay, she said. I knew Olivia had a soft heart, and seeing this scene must have made her feel terrible. I walked over, gently hugged her, and comforted her. It's okay, dear. I'll handle it. She nodded and let out a sigh. I looked at the materials on the table and started thinking about a specific plan to deal with this. Sophia had run away secretly. If she couldn't earn money, David would beat her. David was very cautious. Every time he hit her, he made sure not to leave any DNA fingerprints, as if he had expected that things might be exposed one day and had made full preparations in advance. Once again, David and I were sitting in a private room. This time, he didn't pretend anymore. He leaned lazily on the seat and said in a contemptuous tone, "What's up, James? Instead of spending time with your little doctor girlfriend, you asked me out. What for? Could it be that you've fallen for Sophia again?" David's words were full of mockery. I smiled and shook my head. "David, do you really think you've covered your tracks perfectly?" I stared straight into David's eyes. I could see fear in his eyes. He was afraid that I'd find evidence and send him to prison. In fact, at first, I wasn't completely sure either. But as luck would have it, I found the place where David first assaulted Sophia, the Shijiang cabin. Maybe it was his first time, and he wasn't skilled enough, so he left enough evidence to send him to prison. When he heard Shijiang cabin, the wine glass in his hand dropped to the ground with a thud. His eyes widened in horror as he stared at me. I said angrily, "David, you should never have done this. Using a helpless woman to make money for you is really shameful for a man." The arrest operation went smoothly. Faced with the irrefutable evidence, David confessed to everything. Sophia also attended the court hearing. After a period of treatment, she had recovered a bit, but was still affected. David admitted that he had had ulterior motives when he first saw Sophia. He approached her not because of love, but for money. He thought that someone good looking like him could easily get close to Sophia. And since I was generous to Sophia, it meant she had money, which was indeed the case. Sophia had complete trust in him. As he said this, David suddenly turned to look at Sophia. Sophia was startled and didn't even dare to look at him directly. David continued, "And the day you two broke up completely, I deliberately went to the hospital and put on a cast to pretend I was injured. I was actually fine, I just needed money. I didn't expect you to be so useless that you couldn't even catch James." I was struggling to hold back the urge to rush up and beat him. Such a scumbag didn't deserve to live. Sophia went from disbelief at first, to collapse, then to rage. Finally, she calmed down and walked towards me silently, with tears streaming down her face. I looked up at her and met her tear-filled, cloudy eyes. "Sorry, James. I didn't know how to cherish you, and I lost you. I once had the best love in the world and the best person, but I didn't cherish it. I always took your love for granted and forgot that no one is born to be good to me like this. I lost you because of this scumbag. I deserve it. It's my retribution. James, I regret it. I really regret it." Sophia sobbed uncontrollably and knelt down on the ground, her body weak. I looked at her quietly. The woman I once loved deeply now seemed so strange to me. I knew I had resentment towards Sophia, but seeing her like this, I suddenly felt that it was all in the past. Let it go. Besides, I already had Little Ear by my side. Olivia silently squeezed my hand. I couldn't help but smile a bit and squeezed her hand back. In the end, David was sentenced to death. Only his elderly father came to visit him in the end. The old man took out a card and pleaded with the judge in a rustic accent, "I have money. My son said money can do a lot of things. Did my son do something wrong? I'll give you money. Please give my son back to me, okay?" The old man was on the verge of tears, waving the tattered card in his hand. At this moment, David had long lost his fearless look from before. He just kept looking at the old man, his eyes filled with tears. David looked at his father with red eyes and said, "Dad, don't do this. I'm sorry for you, Dad." I closed my eyes, unable to bear to watch this scene anymore. A year later, Olivia and I got married smoothly. Little Ear in her wedding dress was breathtakingly beautiful. Since her parents were abroad and my parents were in the country, we often traveled between the two places after getting married. Later, we discussed and decided to bring her parents back. After all, there's no place like home. David was eventually executed, and Sophia chose to go abroad. After that, every year at 12 o'clock at night on my birthday, my phone would receive a birthday greeting on time, without fail. There was another happy event. Little Ear was pregnant, and we were about to welcome the crystallization of our love. Thinking that I used to call Olivia Little Ear, and now there would be a little ear in her belly, it was really a wonderful feeling. After David died, considering that he and his father had always depended on each other and the old man had no one to rely on, I sent people to take care of his father. Later, Olivia gave birth to a lovely baby girl smoothly. Looking at my wife and daughter, I was filled with joy. Having a happy and harmonious family like this, life was really good.